Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on episode 37, season 3 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the World Cup. Evening, Richie. The semi-finals are near after two one-sided quarterfinals and two tight tussles, and my first taste of wheelchair rugby in the weekend. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good weekend. How are you going, and what was your take on this week's World Cup action?
Going very well, Brad. The sun is absolutely shining down all week here in Wellington, and they say you can't beat Wellington on a good day. And I might be biased, but I agree. I like the footy was, the Kiwis gave me probably shaved a few years off my life watching that. But yeah, it was great to see a couple of good tight tussles. I think the Kiwis-Fiji game and particularly the Samoa-Tonga game, probably the games of the tournament so far.
Definitely. And while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, your can also catch our show via our podcast at your convenience. Just remember to go to iHeartRadio and search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was Rugby League, including our top stories of the week, a review of the fourth week of the World Cup, including the men's quarterfinals, as we just mentioned. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as questions we've got for each other. We'll then end the night previewing round 2 of the women's tournament, round 2 of the wheelchair tournament, and the men's semi-finals for the World Cup. Remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. I see Simon's here. Evening, Simon. We may as well just jump straight into the top stories of the week.
Sounds good.
First one, it hasn't really been officially announced, but it basically may as well be. But there's been a release of what the first round of the NRL 2023 season will be. I've got it here. It may change, but it seems to be on the money that this is what's going to happen. So on Thursday, we'll have Thursday, the 2nd of March. I'll bring the dates up. We've got Eels versus Storm. Friday, 3rd, we've got the Warriors Knights at Mount Smart. Then Panthers Broncos. And then on Saturday for the triple header, we've got Seagulls, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Raiders, and Sharks, Rabbitohs. And then on Sunday, we have the Dolphins' first ever match playing against the Roosters and the Tigers playing the Titans, with the best news I've ever heard with the Dragons not playing, having a bye in that first round. Negative to that means they get 2 points for doing nothing, but a week where we don't have to talk about the Dragons is a good week for me.
I was going to say...
Yes, Paul, we do have a home game to start the season for the Warriors, which is great.
I was going to say, did you come up with that draw, Brad? Because we've got a Mount Smart home game and no Dragons game.
It seems like a dream. And also, speaking, the Warriors are playing the Knights. The Knights are also rumoured to be the team to miss out on Magic Round this year due to their low fan engagement at the event last season. What's your take on the Knights missing out on Magic Round? I know a team had to miss out. A lot of people were saying it was going to be the Warriors, but the Warriors basically confirmed that when they said that they had announced how many home games they are having and the Magic Round. So we knew they were out of the equation.
Well, one team had to miss out, and it looks like they've chosen a pretty sound way to decide who that team would be. And if the Knights had the lowest fan engagement last year, then they're the ones.
Yeah, I think it's the fairest way, other than trying to pull a name out of the hat. If it's the lowest fan engagement, you're not going to get as much money from their fans coming through the door, so you may as well pick the ones that are going to show up. So it's interesting because the Knights are renowned for their fan base in Newcastle, but going to Brisbane's probably a different story. So we'll see what happens when they actually confirm it, and it'll be interesting to see who plays who in the Magic Round. But that's
an interesting point, actually, because what if the Magic Round was played in Sydney? Would the Knights still have the lowest fan engagement?
I don't think they would.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I don't know.
So
who
maybe
it would be.
It's maybe the fairest way.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting, and we'll go into the next segment. We've got a bit of Tigers Town, which I love. I know Paul loves, so I piled all their news together. good news for Warriors fans. The Tigers, it hasn't been 100% confirmed, but it sounds like they're going to be sending a home match to Hamilton in 2023, which is great for us. It's a bit of a drive for you, but it's not that far for me. So that's another game I can add to the list of things that I'm going to be spending money on, tiki-touring around the country to try to go to all these games. But great to see the Tigers be the first team to put their hands up to do it. But they've also announced that Will Smith has signed a 1-year deal to join them. And there were rumors as well that John Bateman was coming back from the UK and joining the Tigers with a massive signing bonus going to Wigan. Wigan and Bateman have both come out and denied these claims. Fast forward back to, I think, season 1 of this show, and Bateman also denied that he was leaving the NRL to begin with. But we'll just have to wait and see with that. Both sides seem to be very firm that he's not leaving. So we'll probably have news next week, Richie, saying that he's officially signed with the Tigers. But what's your take on all that news from the Tigers?
Well, it'd be cool for the Tigers if Bateman was able to come over, because I think he would round up their pack quite nicely, and their back row would look pretty menacing with Papali'i coming over. Then you add in Api Coruscant coming in to play dummy half. I think it changes the look of their team quite significantly, which they need, obviously, when you look at the season's results. Will Smith's a handy pickup as well. He can plug a few holes there. Not quite as hard hitting as his namesake.
No.
Yeah. Paul's pointed it out too. Will Smith, the Hollywood actor.
Yeah, and Simon's also said he's wondering when the All-Star game tickets will be available, and hopes that we don't miss out. Yeah, I haven't heard when they're going to be announced, but hopefully I can get them. And yeah, he also said he wonders if Bateman will get homesick for the second time. Yeah, it's kind of weird. He left claiming that he was missing home and missing his children. I don't know if he moves over, if there's a situation where his family and kids will come with him. I know he's separated from the mother, but I don't know. It's all just speculation right now, and I get this show in enough trouble with my speculation, so we'll wait there. Next bit of news, I've done it again. I've lumped it all together. Sea Eagles now. My second favorite team. Nathaniel Roach, former Warrior, former Eel. He signed a train and trial deal with the Sea Eagles in one last attempt to resurrect his injury-plagued career. Really hope it works out for him. I think he's a fantastic player when he's on the field. He's just had the worst luck. I had a list. I forgot to put it on here, a list of all the injuries he's had. But yeah, what's your take on him going to Manly, and do you see him managing to get through and get an actual deal?
I think it's great that he's been given a training trial deal. If he stays healthy, we know he's got the talent to make something of an NRL career. So
yeah,
it all hinges on that. That's the unknown with Nate, because he could go down the same road that people like Ben Henry have gone down, where they couldn't kick the injuries and wind up retiring early. So hopefully that's not the case for Nate.
Definitely have my fingers crossed that he makes the most of this one and gets through injury-free. Continuing with the Eagles, though, they have now confirmed their coaching staff. We've been talking about it for the past few weeks. As per the rumours, Anthony Seibold has signed a 3-year deal to be head coach, with Shane Flanagan and Jim Dymock joining him as assistants on 3-year deals. So what's your take on the worst-kept secret of the last month?
Well, I'm still not completely sold on Seibold being the right fit for Manly, but having Jim Dymock and particularly Shane Flanagan, it's pretty handy backup for assistant coaching team. So yeah, we'll see how they go, but I'm not completely sold on Seibold just from recent history of what I've seen of him at the Broncos, but maybe Manly will be a better fit for him. Who knows?
It's the Flanagan ambush you watch, and in a year's time, we'll be talking about Flanagan now becoming head coach.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't want to be the negative Nancy, always running Seabolt down, but I just don't have any faith. He's got some good talent there, but he had some great talent at Brisbane as well. So time will tell if it's a better fit. But they've made their bed. They've got to lie in it now. Next bit of news, though, we had Welsh coach Josh Kerr has called for an international rugby league window to be introduced and believes annual international games are essential if we're serious about growing the game. That kind of goes with a comment that Andrew had made earlier about the World Cup being more competitive. I think we've been talking about it a lot on the show. I think the only way you can grow the international game is to actually let the international games be played. I was looking at the stats of Australia and New Zealand. You know, the last time the Kiwis played Australia was 2019. You know, and they're meant to be two of the top echelon teams, and they're not playing regularly. You need like at least a tour every year. We used to do it. I think it's the only way to grow it, and getting those smaller nations, if you could get more games for them, it's only going to grow and develop them, which is the goal in the end of the time. So what's your take on that? You think about the international window would be a good call?
Yeah, I'd love it. As we saw with the autumn of the internationals earlier in the year, they were fantastic. And then the NRL wanted to put them by the wayside. But I think the Welsh coach is on something there. It would be fantastic to see. Think of a Pacific Four Nations with Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Kiwis. Be amazing. Yeah. Play that in Auckland. Sellouts every game, surely.
And Christopher Edwards Bailey's just said as well, England's begged for years for State of Origin to be played over 3 consecutive weeks so they can tour the Pacific, or vice versa during the same window. Yeah, I still want Origin to be that weekend game like we saw this year, where we had that weekend game and we got some internationals. It seems like a win-win. The Australians get to watch the Origin that means nothing anymore, and the rest of us can actually watch some competitive games. We're sick of watching Queensland dominate your New South Wales, Richie. So it'd be nice to see, so I suppose the issue you get there is so many of the Pacific Island players are playing Origin.
Yeah. Whether or not you schedule it at different times, but that becomes quite loaded with the league calendar. But you're right. If you ran it alongside State of Origin, that will take away quite a bit from the Pacific Island teams.
Yeah, and as Simon said, the broadcast Channel 9 wants to keep it midweek, not to clash with the other sporting code in Australia on the weekend. I still think you could do something like if you had State of Origin and on the same night you had like New Zealand versus Tonga, or Papua New Guinea versus Fiji, or something played at the same time, or like even as the warm-up match before kickoff for Origin, have like a double header. I'm sure there's ways around it. It's just trying to get them to remember the rest of the nations that are carrying the NRL around, show them a bit of love. But we'll get into something I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit. Rugby World Cup officials, or the Rugby League World Cup officials, pre-booked flights for the Kiwis to leave England on Sunday in a move labelled disrespectful by the Kiwis captain Jesse Bromwich. Officials have claimed that they were forced to predict which teams would be eliminated so they could put holds on flights before the start of the World Cup. If the Kiwis win, it will cost officials $350 Australian per person to change the New Zealand flights. It bit them in the ass last week because they booked Samoa to leave, and obviously Samoa defeated Tonga and are here for another week, so they had to change all their flights again. But what's your take, Paul? You're with us now as the only Englishman on the group. What's up with the Englishmen?
All you do is if the Kiwis beat Australians have to fly via New Zealand. And they have to fly to New Zealand and get a flight from Auckland to Sydney to go home. and same the Kiwis just have to fly via Sydney after the World Cup final. I mean, it's not that big a difference. That's how you do it. Make them have an extra transfer.
Yeah, what's your take on this this news with the officials ruling the Kiwis out before they even have a chance to go deep?
Yeah, it feels a bit that way. It feels like they've written us off. I mean, I don't know what basis they decided to book us flights, given that technically we're the number one ranked team, but obviously form-wise, Australia's probably looking a bit better, but I just hope the Kiwis stick it to the Aussies and cost them some coin.
Yeah, I think it's a nice extra bit of motivation, I think. And as Christopher Edwards said, vast majority of the players are based in Australia anyway. Yeah, it's not more the location, it's more the fact you've booked a ticket. So if you have to adjust it to another date, you still have to adjust. So it's not really the destination that's the issue. It's more the fact that they've done it. And as Simon said, the World Cup organisation, it's not the first screw up they've done. They've had lots of issues with their tickets and everything. It's been very poorly managed at times, which is a bit hard to comprehend due to the fact that they essentially got an extra year of planning involved. That obviously added to extra stresses with having to rebook stadiums and the like, but not a good look. And I'm like you, I'm already a heavily biased Kiwis fan, but I'd like to see them stick it to the man here by costing them a little bit more money by lasting an extra week. Next bit is a bit messy. The NRL clubs, the clubs and the players have still not finalised the collective bargaining agreement. And this has meant that the 2023 salary cap and final draw have not been sent out to clubs, which they're desperately crying for because they want to get prepared for the season, as you could imagine. It's real messy, and there's been vague threats, which I don't think hold any legs, of clubs leaving to create a rival competition, a la Super League from back in the day. The clubs could join forces, though, and oust Peter V'landys. They only need 14 clubs to agree. There's no deadline for the CBA, and it could go long into 2023, but it's just getting really messy. The players want more, a bigger piece of the pie. The clubs want a bit more clarity on money-wise, and the NRL want to keep it as it is, as you'd expect. Well, what's your take on all this? Do you think going into the start of November and not knowing how much money you have to spend on players for next year, it doesn't really seem great for your planning?
No, that's exactly right. It's not great for your planning at all. We shall see, mate. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think ousting Peter V'landys is an answer there, or do you think he's the issue? Or
I've got lots of issues with V'landys. I think he dropped the ball with the TV deals. He went quickly. He could have got the club and the sport a lot more money if he was a bit smarter there. He just wanted to get the deal done. He's going to be a bit like the Warriors. He's kind of living off the getting the game through COVID situation a bit more than most people would like. It's kind of that's not an excuse you can use anymore. But it's going to be interesting to see, as Simon said, who's most likely to replace Peter. I have no idea. I think that might be the thing that keeps him there. It's not like there's someone else waiting in the wings ready to come in and revolutionize the NRL and get everything back up and running. So he'll probably keep the job just for the sake of there's no one else. Unless Phil Gould decides to abandon another club in the middle of rebuilding them and just take that job. Who knows? It's going to be interesting times. It will give us something to talk about for the next few weeks, I'm sure. But that's all the news I really wanted to grab, so we can go into injuries. As Simon said, please no Phil. I don't see that. I'm being facetious. I don't. I think he's happy with the Bulldogs. But we'll go into casualty ward. Yep, there's Not really anything. It's everyone seems to be kind of healthy. James Tedesco did come off early with a cork, but has said that he's fine and will be available to play against New Zealand. And speaking of New Zealand, Murata Nakore, Dylan Watini Zesniak, and Moses Leota should all be fit to play this week if selected. So good to see that there's not a lot of injuries coming into the semi-finals, because you kind of want all hands on deck. And then Naughty Boys, we've got none, Richie. Devastated. I thought we were going to have one because Junior Polo, the Samoan captain, had been given a 1-week ban for raising his forearm when running in the ball. He had the unfortunate error of raising his forearm against David Fafita, who's a protected species. And it looked like he was going to get in trouble, but he challenged it and was successful. So he will play this week, which is a massive win for Samoa. Especially, we've talked all through the World Cup, the amount of injuries and key players they've lost. To lose their captain in the biggest game of the tournament for them would have been a massive
would have been big,
massive loss. So great to see that he fought the soft judiciary and won out there, because I thought there was nothing in it.
Biggest game of the tournament so far, and they may go on to the final.
The biggest so far, they may. You got any takes on that?
You didn't think Joseph Soali'i's knee, in his running style, and he lifts his knee, you don't think that was worth another look? I remember Connie Harrell getting banned for that at one point in time.
Yeah, he did get a caution. I think the difference is Connie Harrell's knees are the size of Joseph Soali. I think that's probably the biggest difference there. Soali, he can fall over in the wind.
I don't know, mate. He made some pretty barnstorming runs on the weekend. He's a bit of a beast.
Yeah, he is. It's something he's definitely going to work on, has to work on. He'll survive the World Cup with it, but it's been highlighted a lot more in the World Cup than it was in the NRL. So, come round one of the NRL season next year, everyone's going to be watching him. And if he hasn't adjusted, he will see time on the sidelines. I can't raise my legs, so I can't really speak from experience about it. I'm a shuffler, so I'd be happy if I could raise my knees like he could, but it is what it is. We may as well get into the World Cup now. I've started with the women's tournament and the wheelchair. We had New Zealand defeated France 46-0 in the women's. Australia defeated Cook Islands 74-0. England defeated Canada 54-4. Papua New Guinea defeated Brazil 70-0. Then New Zealand got to play again, beating Cook Islands 34-4. And then Australia decided to, put France on a one-way ticket home and bet them 92-0. Before we go into the wheelchair, did you catch any of the women's games? And if so, what did you think of them?
Yeah, I caught the Kiwis Black Ferns in France game. I thought the girls looked decent for a first hit out. Not quite what Australia did them 92-0. I caught that one as well, but when I was paying attention, because it's hard to keep attention when it seems like they're scoring every other minute. It's sort of similar to what the men's tournaments produced, sort of a few big blowouts, but it looks to be a 2-3 horse race. Yeah,
no disrespect to the other teams, but it's essentially New Zealand, Australia, England, and Papua New Guinea. The lion's share of those guys are playing in the NRLW or in the Women's Super League, so they're getting a lot of experience. You got Brazil there, the same as Jamaica on the men's side. It's great to see them there, and they're going to learn a lot, but they're going to be on the hiding to nothing. But yeah, we know it's all going to come down to one of those four teams taking it all out. I haven't looked at the proper draw to see who has to play who. We've got a very good game coming up this week, which we're talking about in the preview, which is New Zealand versus Australia. So that'll be good to see. And I think it's good for the first kind of head out for a lot of these teams. But yeah, you can't argue that it's it's good to watch.
Yeah.
So very happy. But we'll go on to the most important tournament of all tournaments, the wheelchair. We talked last week. I'd never seen one before. I had no idea what you do. I'll go through all the scores. There's some impressive scores in here, and then we'll just discuss it. So we had Spain defeat Ireland 55-32. England defeat Australia 38-8. France defeat Wales 154-6. USA defeated Scotland 62-41. England defeated Spain 104-12. Australia defeated Ireland 76-18. France, after their big win against Wales, did it again, defeating Scotland 80-15. And then Wales, after that big smashing, came back and defeated USA 50-32. So before I go on for an hour talking about this amazing game, what did you think of the wheelchair rugby? Did you get to watch any?
I've watched all of the highlights. So I haven't watched the full game, but I've watched all of the game's highlights. Action-packed, mate. Like I was saying to you before we jumped on air, it's fast, and I couldn't believe some of the moves they were pulling off, and even seeing some of the guys diving for the corner for tries in a wheelchair, blew my mind. It looks very fun to watch. From what I can gather, I mean, I haven't followed it closely prior to this tournament, but France look like a pretty impressive team, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and as Simon said, he only watched one wheelchair game, but it's the closest wheelchair version to any code of rugby, and he likes it. Yeah, I'm the same. I kind of always, like I said last week, I kind of, in my head, from watching, I think it's wheelchair rugby, they use a round ball and they throw it into the basket like basketball kind of thing. They don't. So they go into like an area. It's weird, but they have a leg ball. They're doing kicks, with the old, as you said before show, the AFL bunt that they do. When they score a try, they're doing conversions, using a lot of the tactics that we see in rugby league. And I got to watch a few of the games where there was a few intercepts and all sorts. And thoroughly enjoyed it. It had me captivated, which even in the blowout games, it was just fascinating to watch. I don't remember what game it was, but there was one where there was a collision and the post fell down. Very exciting. And hopefully this gives it a bit more recognition for the everyday fan, and we hopefully see other nations get involved. It'd be great to see the Kiwis get a team in there, and thoroughly enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. I thought I'd watch one game and go, this isn't for me, but I really loved it, and I'm looking forward to watching some more. But we may as well go on to the games we're going to talk at length about, I guess. The quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So first game, Richie, Australia defeated Lebanon 48-4. What were your take on a game we kind of saw coming? But
yeah, I was pretty impressed with the Kangaroos and kind of expect that from them. But I mean, they seem to account for Lebanon a lot easier than what we did. I thought obviously Josh Addo-Carr dotting down for 5 tries. I think he had a hat trick within the first 20 minutes. Another ridiculous performance from him.
He had a hat trick in the 18th minute.
Yeah, there you go. I think if you stop the tournament right now, you'd be hard to find a player other than him that might, putting their hand up for man of the tournament. He'd be right up there anyway. I think Aussie did it with relative ease. They even rested Tedesco for the second half, I think, because I believe it was a cork in his thigh. So, they look good.
4 or 5 other guys that can play fullback.
Yeah,
so I think
they do. They look good, mate. They look good. They've got me worried for this coming weekend.
Yeah, they're definitely playing really well. The only thing is Nathan Cleary had a bit of an off night with the boot. He hit 6 out of 9, which is still something we would dream of as Kiwis. But it was weird seeing him. I know he's kind of come out and said the ball's smaller or something. we'll see. There's a lot of other guys that are hitting it pretty sweet. So I think he was just having an off night.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're running in 9 tries, missing a couple of conversions against a team that's only managed 1 against you, it's not too bad. It could be a concern for them if they get into a tight tussle potentially. But they do have guys like Latrell and Valentine Holmes that if it's looking like a bad night for Nathan, they can switch it to them. So I think they'll be fine in that category. But yeah, good performance. Lebanon, they were just they were trying. They were just not good enough. They made 11 errors, which you just can't do against a team like Australia. And I think the bonus for them though is that they've qualified automatically for the next World Cup, which is great for them. Good. And hopefully they can actually get some games before the next World Cup. I think they are one of those next tier down teams that I think will be competitive going forward. But yeah, great World Cup for them. I think they put on some good performances that they'll be proud of. Unfortunately, they went up against a superstar team like Australia and just were never going to get in there, which kind of flows on into the next game, Richie, which was England defeating Papua New Guinea 46-6. This was a game I really was hoping Papua New Guinea would come in here and
me too.
Take England to the limit, but England, they've got a Josh Adokar in their hands too.
Mackinson.
With Mackinson there, he scored quite a few. I think he scored 4 in the end, didn't he?
5.
He got 5. Oh, he did, yeah. 8-17. Yeah, he got 5 tries. Dominic Young scored another one as well. But yeah, Papua New Guinea, they just didn't really fire a shot. I was expecting more. I was expecting England to win, don't get me wrong. But I was kind of expecting like if they were going to score 40, that Papua New Guinea would at least get to 20 or something. Yeah. But yeah, they were just completely dominated. I've got here, they missed 42 tackles. They made 12 errors, conceded 4 penalties. Everything was kind of against them. And against these big sides, you can't make errors like that. But yeah, England continue to make me eat humble pie. So
yeah, they do. They look good, don't they?
Yeah.
They actually led 38-0 at halftime. So Papua New Guinea definitely gave a better account of themselves in the second half. I don't know how much of that is an extra effort from Papua New Guinea or England taking the foot off the throttle and coasting, because 38-0 at halftime, I think they pretty much already had the game in the bag at halftime.
Yeah, and they will probably already had their eyes on a tough battle against Tonga in the semi-final. Well, no, at that time, everyone had already written Samoa off, Richie. Everyone was thinking of Tonga. But, yeah, great performance from England. They've probably been, it's them and Australia have been the standout teams on each side of this, which most people would probably have expected, except for the idiots like me who ripped England off. But we'll go into the next game, and the most stressful game of the weekend, I think, for us. But New Zealand scraped through and defeated Fiji 24-18 in a game you could probably argue they didn't deserve to win. I think Fiji were the better side. I thought, what's his name?
Taruva.
Taruva was head and shoulders above everyone on that paddock. But
yeah,
New Zealand, to their credit, they didn't panic. They stuck to a process and they got there. I know a lot of people were talking about poor referee decision or a poor bunker decision when Kiwis challenged strip. I personally thought it was a strip anyway, so I thought it was valid.
So did
I can, hand on my heart, I am a biased Kiwis fan, so I might have that helping me, but it looked like there was a little bit. I think Joey Manu kind of fudged it as well, but I think there was definitely contact, hand on ball in there. But Fiji still had a chance to take that game after that and made a few untimely errors, unfortunately for them. But yeah, New Zealand, it was hopefully the wake-up call they need. I kind of feel like we've been saying that every week with them, but it's really, Mikey said it was definitely a strip. Yeah, I I didn't. If it went the other way and it was Fiji and New Zealand had done that, I wouldn't be complaining too much. If New Zealand had got knocked out by Fiji in the second World Cup in a row, I might have made it a kick and a roar. But yeah, it was the first tight game of the weekend, and was really enjoyable if I wasn't a New Zealand fan, because as you know, we were talking throughout the game and had kind of already packed our bags, going, this is over, and then a few errors and they were back in it. Yeah, not convincing by any means, but they lived to fight another day.
Yeah, my take on that strip, I thought it was a strip too. I saw a hand on ball and pulling the arm back. Again, I'm like you, probably a little bit of bias there, but I believe even if it was not a team I was supporting, I would think that was a strip. It started giving me memories of last World Cup against Fiji, although the score is a lot higher. But yeah, Fiji, they were really up for it. Taruva, I think Kevin Nguama as well had a massive outing, and I think Chance Nickel-Klostad was probably showing me he's probably lacking a bit of game time, especially at centre. He looked to be having trouble with Nguama. So I've got a bit of I've got some reservations about that position out in the centres there for the Kiwis heading into this week. It'll be interesting to see what they do there selection wise, but yeah, credit to us for hanging in there and finding a way to win, because Fiji definitely didn't roll over and hand it to us. We needed to find an extra gear to take it towards the end.
No, I've come out of this game more praising Fiji than being happy about New Zealand winning. I thought Fiji put in a hell of an effort. Fire a bit more respect for the ball, and I think they would have been facing Australia this week and sending New Zealand home. But thankfully, that isn't the case for me. And we'll go into the last game. Game of the round, game of the year. I don't know where you want to sit with it, but Samoa, shocking the world and sending one of my predicted potential winners of the World Cup home with defeating Tonga 20-18. Fantastic from Samoa. Tonga, I put it down. I feel like Tonga kind of went into it like Samoa did against England, where they kind of thought they already had the edge, and they were just, they missed almost 50 tackles, double-digit errors. They were just going, and I think the key difference, we talked about it on Ruin Hammer's show, I think, as well. The biggest strength for Samoa in comparison to the other Pacific Island nations was their spine, and I think the spine was the difference in this game, because Tonga's got an amazing backline, one of the best forward packs around, but they don't have a spine at all. No disrespect for the players that are there, but they're just not at the level needed to really put Tonga at the next level. But yeah, and I know Paul's upset. I go on every show that's offered to me, Paul. I'm sorry. But you had more skin in this game on, a proud white Tongan. But you're a Samoan blood. So what was your take on this? A massive win for your team.
Oh, I thought it was an amazing game, mate. Like right down to the challenges, pre-game challenges being laid down by both teams. None of this stuff you see in rugby union where they're standing at a 40-meter line each. They were right in each other's faces, and you could feel the intensity. And then right after it, the respect as well. There was handshakes between both sides. But then the rest of the game was just carnage and big carries, big contacts. Some nice tries scored. I think the try that Tonga scored with 10 minutes to go to put them back in the game, I think the big break from Kaloamatangi and then to Moses Suli, and then he drew and passed for the try. I think it was just a really high-quality game, mate. For two Pacific Island teams, it's just fantastic that they're in a quarter-final competing at such a high level, and it was a cliffhanger. I think you're right. I think the difference. There's a big difference in the spines when you're looking at Milford, Luai, Suoli'i. Then you look at the other side, you've got Katoa, who's quite a young, up-and-coming rookie, but he hasn't got the yards yet. Tuilola here, he's been around, but probably performing at not quite at the same level as, say, a Luai, competition-wise, week in, week out. And I think that's the difference, really.
Yeah. And see, the bonus for this is being a South Aucklander, I can change my island nations. So I'm officially a Samoan again. So I'll be going for Samoa. And I think I'm really looking forward to that clash this week of England versus Samoa.
Yeah.
As we did in our show title, it's their chance at revenge. We can really see if that first game was really just overly confident Samoa and not focusing, and see what they're made of. If they get ridden off the park again, we just go, well, it's got nothing to do with how Samoa is. It's just England's too good. But I don't think we're going to see a landslide like we did in that first round. I hope not. I really don't want to see any one-sided games in the semi-final. But yeah, it's at least it's a great story. Their chance at redemption. And yeah, Simon said his heart Samoa, but his head says England. Yeah, I really want to see Samoa win. I think it would be great not only for it to be a Southern Hemisphere final, but just for the story of the international game as well. But and yeah, he said if Samoa win the semi, does Matt get a contract extension? I still don't like him. I still don't think he's good for Samoa, but if he gets them to a final, you can't really sack him, can you? So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, any more takes on that, Richie, before we go to questions? Or
were there any Samoan street parades this weekend in Auckland?
There was one a few minutes drive from my house in Mangere. No, I was going to say there was no dramas, but there was someone shot. But
that would be a drama, Brad.
Yes, that wasn't. That was gang related, not Rugby League World Cup related. It was just in the same vicinity, and I think they used the crowd as a thing. But naturally, as New Zealand likes to do, they blamed it on the thick-headed league fans being thugs. So it's always great to see that narrative out there. But apart from that, everything seemed peaceful. I know there was a lot of people out in the social media saying, win or lose, remember to love each other, in case there was any issues. But nothing of major concern to do with the league supporters, which is great to see. And yeah, a lot more Samoan flags I've seen on cars this week in my driving to and from work.
Yeah, same here.
Great to see the passion. So were there any questions from anyone we left out, Paul?
Yep, Andrew JP had one about the group stages. To make group stages more competitive, would you like to see a return to the weighted group stages, A and B strongest teams, C and D weakest teams, or have a pre-tournament qualification stage with a 10 or 12 team Rugby League World Cup, including 2 or 4 qualification teams?
I don't mind that change. The only difference, I still have the negative connotations to it because when they did that last time, New Zealand didn't make it. So, yeah, it's hard. I just want to see more international games. I think it's the only way you're going to get it better. Making the weighted ones, you get more competitive matches during the round robin, but those other teams don't really get to develop because they're only playing other poor teams. I don't know. I'm sure there's an easy way to fix it. I'm sure it's just I don't know what it is. I wouldn't be against what Andrew suggested there, and I wouldn't be against if they kept it the same way and gave more focus during the years in between World Cups, internationals. I just want to see more internationals play. That's really it for me.
Yeah, agreed.
There you go. That's all the and Ben goes CHT over Milford.
For me personally, yes, I think they play better without over Milford. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think Chanel is a more complete player, and I think him and Jerome complement each other well. But then Milford and Jerome did well in the weekend just gone. So, but yeah, I would have Chanel. I think he has to be a must in the 17.
Yeah.
I think he's really he's done some good things in this World Cup, and his versatility is quite integral to that bench. You could basically play him anywhere.
I would have Chanel as well. You can tell we're biased Warriors fans, though, Brad?
Yeah. Yeah, and some makes point that it's going to take a couple of World Cups for the lower teams to get more competitive, and it all comes down to funding as well, to give them the right stuff. So they've got the right thing to prepare properly for these games. And he said that only comes if you play games, because that can generate funding at the end of the day. So
yeah, and that's kind of what I said last week. The only way they're going to improve is if they actually get invested into, which has always been a struggle.
And that's it from live chat, guys.
Cool. We'll go with your question to me first, Richie.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, after seeing the Kiwis at times this tournament, pretty much the whole tournament, not really stamp their mark on a game. I mean, they've had blowout scores, but I don't think they've looked as scary as, say, Australia or England. Where do you think the Kiwis are lacking currently, goal kicking aside, because we've kind of already talked about that?
On the scoreboard, Richie.
Yeah.
They're lagging it. I think looking into the Fiji game, I noticed it a bit more because they were actually playing a competitive team. There wasn't the excuse of Jerome Hughes isn't playing like I used when they played Lebanon. I felt like their game plan just isn't right. They were it reminded me a bit Warrior-esque at times, where it was all about getting the ball out to the left or out to the right as quickly as you can without setting, we laugh about my love of props, but without getting those props doing the work in the middle first and earning the right to spread it wide. And they got the talent in the middle to do it. And I think to beat Australia, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to win the middle, but they actually got to use the middle, which they haven't been doing. They might do one run. We kind of saw it in patches against Fiji where the big boys started rolling, and then we saw Brandon Smith actually, run out of dummy half, which he hasn't really done this whole tournament. And when he did that, things started developing, and that's really what they have to do. That's what they're lacking. It's that using the forwards in the right way. We've seen it. They put Nelson out on the edge, which isn't where he belongs. And get those big boys up the middle doing the job, and it will actually make the match a bit more even, I think. If they don't do that, they may as well get on those early flights, in all honesty. But what about you? Did you have any ideas about what they're lacking?
The centres worry me a bit. I feel like Hiku's nice and dependable, but the other side has kind of chopped and changed a wee bit throughout the tournament. There hasn't been a lot of continuity there. Coming up against a team like Australia, where you're going to have Val Holmes and Latrell Mitchell running at you through those channels, that's a bit of a worry. I tend to agree with you about the forwards. I still, the selections in the forwards might not be exactly what I'd go with. Like you said, Big Nelson out on an edge. I feel like he's more of a middle and even maybe a impact off the bench middle. I feel like Bromwich being our senior player, but I feel like he doesn't provide as much sort of go for an impact as he once did.
Hot take here. If he wasn't captain, I don't think he would have been picked. I wouldn't have him in my team. No disrespect to him, but I just think there's better props out there.
I know. I agree with you completely, mate. But in saying that, that's not going to change, is it? So
no.
Mate, we're there now. We're in the semi against Aussie, and it's just going to take one big 80-minute effort. I hate to be cliche, but we turn up at our best, we can send them home.
Yeah, definitely. And anything less than the best is going to send them home. It's as simple as that. But yeah, in regards to your centre part, I think if he hadn't got injured, I think Nakore would have been the centre each week.
Yeah.
I think that was always going to be the plan. I don't know if I talked about it on Ruin Hammer's show or if I talked about it in the group chat with them and you. But I think the plan was always to use Nakore against Australia to combat Latrell.
Yes.
Have a bigger bodied centre than Sebastian Chris or Chance, who are a bit more mobile, but probably more defensive liability against the likes of Latrell. We'll see when they announce the team, depending on how Maguire announces it this week. If he does it by numbers, alphabetical, or their date of birth, I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, centre, I feel like every team we support seems to have an issue in the centres. Not a fan.
Yeah.
But cool with the questions. We may as well get into week 5. There's quite a few games. We'll start with the women. There's only 4 games for them in the round robins left, which is 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday. Canada versus Brazil and England versus Papua New Guinea. And then on Friday, France versus Cook Islands and Australia versus New Zealand. And then on Tuesday, before our show next week, we actually have the semi-finals. And due to the fact that they haven't finished yet, we don't know who the semi-finals will be. But they'll have the winner of Group B versus the runner-up of Group A, and the winner of Group A versus the runner-up of Group B. So yeah, we don't know who that is going to be until we actually have our show next week when we talk about who won. So I'll do, if you guys follow me on social media, and that on Friday when we actually know, I'll do a social media post on what the semi-finals will be. But yeah, I'm sure that we know that there's going to be a few teams we already mentioned, New Zealand, Australia, whatnot. And then the wheelchair, they're in the same boat. 4 games left. Australia versus Spain, England versus Ireland, France versus USA, and Wales versus Scotland. And just like the women, we don't know who the semi-finals will be. They will be played on Monday. So winner of Group B versus runner-up of A, winner of A versus runner-up of B. So yeah, we don't know who they are. I will also put a post out about that when I know. And we'll talk about who wins those next week. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have the semi-finals of the men. Saturday, we have Australia, New Zealand. Sunday, we have England, Samoa. So put your predictions down, Richie. Australia, New Zealand, who have you got?
Australia.
Okay. It's nice to see you're a coward. I'm going New Zealand. I sent a picture through the pool. I forgot. So there's our semi-final. I'm going with Kiwis. Much like every bold decision I've made in this World Cup, I'll most likely get it wrong. But I think, as we already said, if they bring their best, they can be competitive. So I'm hoping for the best. Australia, by all rights, should win this comfortably, I would say, judging just on World Cup performances alone. But, the Kiwis love to do the odd surprise against Australia once in a blue moon, and we had a red moon yesterday, so let's use that as an omen. And then England, Samoa, I'm thinking, like Simon, England with my head, but I really want to see Samoa, get revenge and get that win.
England in my head, heart firmly with Samoa. I'm hoping they've taken some lessons out of the first game. They've got better each game as the tournament's gone on. So I'm actually feeling more optimistic about Samoa than I am about the Kiwis' chances for some reason. I'm hoping New Zealand prove me wrong, but yeah, seeing them against Fiji set off some alarm bells for me.
Yeah, and I really don't want to support Australia in the final. So if Australia do beat the Kiwis, I really hope Samoa make it through, because I'll feel a lot more comfortable supporting Samoa than I would supporting England. But yeah, whoever wins that final, if the Kiwis don't make it, but if New Zealand don't make it through, I'll be going for whoever wins that game anyway to win the whole thing.
Me too.
But yeah, so that's it. We'll obviously next week we'll be previewing or reviewing all the semis and then previewing the finals. So we'll definitely know. But anything else you want to add before we sign off, Richie?
Thanks everyone for the league chat again this week. Thank you, Brad. Thanks, Paul, for doing your thing. Let's go Black Caps tonight. I'm about to
Yes.
go watch that.
England, England, England.
So yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the standoff with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook at your convenience on iHeartRadio. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining us all. Cheers, Richie, for
Cheers.
joining me, and thank you, Paul, for all your help in the back. And good night, everyone.